Namaskar and welcome to Indian Diplomacy, show on Doordarshan, India's national broadcaster, about India's foreign policy, India's foreign relations with key partners around the world, the big themes and issues revolving Indian foreign policy, and also the India's rising stature in the world and how it's reshaping the world order. Viewers, in this episode, we are taking up a very important event, biennial event that the government of India organizes, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, in other words, Indian Diaspora Day. This is happening in 2023 in Indore, Madhya Pradesh, the 17th edition of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. What this event is all about and why this is important and its ramifications both for India and for the diaspora spread out across the world. That's the theme of today's episode, and to understand Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, I have a very special guest in my studio. Let me introduce you to him, Ambassador Dnyaneshwar Mulay. Namaskar. Ambassador Mulay was Secretary Overseas Indian Affairs in the Ministry of External Affairs. He has been India's High Commissioner to the Maldives and also Consul General at New York, and he has actually organized the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. So thank you so much, Ambassador, for being with us in Indian
My
Diplomacy.
pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Ambassador, you have seen the evolution of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas way back when it was launched in 2003 on the date January 9th to commemorate Mahatma Gandhi's return from South Africa in 1915.
That's right.
He was, of course, the greatest Pravasi. And 20 years of since passed since we initiated this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. You've organized one of them in 2019 as well.
Two of them.
Two of them.
Yes.
So makes you from the horse's mouth. We'd like you to tell the audience how big has this event become? What is so special about it, and what is its uniqueness for which so many of the diaspora gather and network and bring their energies to India here, and we in turn embrace them here, and they take back so much from here. So let the audience know, please, about Pravasi Bharatiya Divas.
Sure. Well, this is perhaps the largest gathering of any diaspora anywhere in the world. So let's keep that in mind. Number one. Number two, we started as you know, during the Vajpayee years, this extraordinary report written by L.M. Singhvi, the great jurist and thinker, and that really paved the way. He laid the foundation, in a sense, theoretical foundation, with a lot of practical suggestions. And there were four elements that were expected originally, and today we see them actually getting realized. Number one, he wanted a framework, a policy framework of Government of India that can define its relationship with diaspora. Number two, he thought that we should utilize this very valuable resource for India. Leverage is the word he used. And last one, he expected that there would be a rise of a stronger partnership between India and the diasporic countries where we have a large number of people of Indian origin or NRIs or other kind of people. So having seen the evolution of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, this will be the 17th in Indore, and I think we have come a long way. I always felt that the rise of India also gives rise to our diaspora and vice versa. If the diaspora is confident, it adds to India's confidence in the world. So today we are having presidency of the G20. India has this is the 75th year of the largest democracy in the world.
Amritakal.
We have a median age of 28, so this is a young country, and a number of accomplishments, whether it is science and technology or in the field of education or in the field of space, literacy. And India is actually, I am not saying poised to play an important role, India is playing an important role on the global stage.
And the diaspora sees it, right? I mean, as they have been coming over the years for Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, they are seeing in the front of their own eyes this transformation of India, and that I think gives them a lot of pride and self-confidence.
Absolutely, no doubt. As I said, this is a very symbiotic relationship. Can you imagine any country which has people of its origin becoming head of state and head of government?
We have about 8 of them now around the world.
8 countries.
Prime ministers and presidents.
And this does not include the vice president of the United States of America. And there are almost 250 members of parliament in various parts of the world. This is a remarkable achievement.
And heads of major corporate houses, especially in the US.
Absolutely. Whether Sundar Pichai or Shantanu of Adobe, Satya Nadella, Indra Nooyi. These are great large number of what I saw in New York, where I was consul general, is that even today in the financial world you might see that the number 1 is somebody not from India, but from number 3, 4 onwards till 10 they are all Indians. What it really means is, in the coming times you will see a huge plethora of Indians being the CEOs of these top notch companies in the world. And
we honor many of these distinguished people on Pravasi, Bharatiya Divas. There is a Samman that is awarded for people who have accomplished in various fields, isn't it?
Absolutely. This time there will be 27 people, and we have President of Guyana, Irfan Ali, as the chief guest of the PBD, because that is the practice. We have one head of state or head of government who is of Indian origin, is invited here.
Viewers, the point that Ambassador Mulay is making is that India is transforming, and as a result of it, it's also energizing our diaspora and giving them more faith in our country and wanting to connect back to India in a bigger way. Culture, of course, is there. It's always been there, the cultural connect, civilizational India, but also the modernization of India. In the Narendra Modi era, there's so many big changes that have been happening, and the diaspora feels very enthused by it. Ambassador Mulay already mentioned that the president of Guyana, which is an important diasporic country in the Caribbean, Muhammad Irfan Ali, is the chief guest for the 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. And in this context, viewers, I have a exclusive video statement from India's High Commissioner in Guyana, Dr. K.J. Srinivasa. Let's hear him and continue the discussion.
Namaste. Greetings from the Indian High Commission in Guyana. It gives me great honor and pleasure to welcome His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, on his official visit to India as the chief guest for the 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas being held in Indore, Madhya Pradesh from the 8th to the 10th of January. Friends, India and Guyana share a centuries-long relationship. It all started on the 5th of May 1838 when the first ship by the name Whitby landed in Highbury with 249 indentured laborers from eastern UP and Bihar mostly, beginning the immigration of over 239,000 Indians to Guyana. Currently, the descendants of these indentured laborers comprise a vibrant Indian diaspora, which makes up about 40% of Guyana's population and play a vital role in the economic, political and social development of the country. The High Commission actively involves the Indian diaspora in all its activities and encourages them to make use of the No India program for the youth, the Pravasi Tirat Dham Yojana for the elderly, while also sending young Indian diaspora on long-term scholarships. The High Commission's efforts in promoting traditional Indian dances like Kathak, Sanskrit, Ayurveda, Yoga, Hindi and classical Hindustani music has been well appreciated by the local diaspora. The establishment of India Corners, well stocked with books on Indian culture, Indian history, has been widely appreciated, especially in the local schools, the public libraries and the universities. The donation of Indian musical instruments to the socio-cultural and religious organizations and the mandirs has helped the Indian diaspora to bridge a gap to sustain Indian traditions in Guyana. The High Commission's role in actively engaging collaboration across various sectors has led to an increased recognition of India's presence and a dominant role not only in Guyana but in the wider Caribbean region.
Viewers, you just heard from India's High Commissioner to Guyana. He's concurrently also in Antigua and St. Kitts. So he's talking about the proactive role of our diplomatic missions in the Caribbean and how we are trying to build bridges between the diaspora there and Mother India. Ambassador Mulay, you were Consul General in New York, you've also been Secretary Overseas Indian Affairs. Sometimes the work of our diplomatic missions is not widely known or appreciated. So I'd like you to tell the audiences what all we do, especially where there are large diasporic communities. I mean, I know there are the ones that get attention are the Holi and the Diwali receptions and those kind of things, or a yoga day, which is all great. But there are also many other ways by which we try to tap into their enthusiasm for India and try to convert that into longer term giving back to India. So if you could tell the audiences what all our missions do, and that's something that needs to be recognized and put out there.
Sure, absolutely. I think that I would say there are two types of interactions. Number one is those that have been designed to help Indians in distress. Say somebody meets with an accident and he is a needy person, somebody is suddenly retrenched, needs food, shelter. Sometimes people are cheated by the agents here or agents there or employers there. So there is a very elaborate system called Indian Community Welfare Fund or ICWF, which actually takes care of almost every requirement of a distressed Indian. Of course, the condition is that the person should be deserving one, and that choice is, of course, that discretion is with the embassy.
Presumably you have more of these in the Gulf where we have blue collar
absolutely,
diaspora.
But it applies to all over the world and it's primarily for Indian citizens. Number two is there are certain schemes which are really meant only for the older diaspora, indentured, those people who went as indentured laborers. For them we have this No India program. So almost every year about 240 young men and women, they come to India, spend here 45 days each, go to different parts of India. They are exposed to number of segments, political leaders, social leaders. They go and see the civil society organizations. So that kind of exposure really gives them what should I say, holistic picture of India. So when they go back, actually then they become the ambassadors of India. Similarly, there is a scheme for older people, again from the this diaspora, indentured labor diaspora, which is called Tirtha Yatra, where they are sent on pilgrimage places all over India, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, even Zoroastrian. So this is also a new thing. Then there is a worldwide quiz competition. It's called Bharat Ko Janiye, which also we receive thousands of applications for that, because the younger generation feels very, very connected to
for their roots, to rediscover the roots.
Absolutely. And then now it's actually mandatory for all our heads of mission to interact with the Indian students in those countries. Interacting with executive has become a executive CEOs has become a norm now. It's on a daily basis. Organizing delegations from India and to India occupies a major part of the work of our ambassadors and consul generals now. So now our ambassadors and heads of mission, if I can say, they have to be on their toes all the times,
especially where we have large Pravasi communities. Ambassador, also in the Modi era, because PM himself has been such a big ambassador for diaspora relations, and the way he has electrified our diaspora, wherever he goes, he makes it a point that there must be Indian community reception, or direct address or town hall or whatever. So those things also, I know mission heads organize those things in a big way.
Correct.
And surely there is also follow up that you do after those, and you try to create that momentum, isn't it, to mobilize people. I think nobody can mobilize our diaspora, has never done it as much as Prime Minister Modi has done. So that also has, I think, now become part of the routine, isn't it, for our missions?
No doubt. I think the kind of enthusiasm that Honorable Prime Minister has shown, I think it has been unmatched, and that almost establishes a personal link with the members of diaspora, and they feel at home now in India. They are, I think, more open in taking up their problems and issues. Also, the expectations from India and expectations of India from the diaspora both have now really rising, and that is the test of the Indore PBD. I personally feel. I also feel that it has been very well themed out. In diaspora as reliable partner during Amrit Kal.
During the Amrit Kal, the next 25 years.
That means I think, and if you see the individual plenary sessions,
yes,
they concentrate on innovations. They focus also on women entrepreneurship among diaspora.
Correct. There's a session on healthcare also.
Absolutely. So
and investments, because we want more. That's been one area, Ambassador Mulay, where people say that the Chinese diaspora or the Jewish diaspora, for example, have given a lot more financially back to their mother countries compared to us. But of course, if you take remittances, then it is huge, right? It's almost $90 billion is what our diaspora is sending back in terms of remittances. But the foreign institutional investment, foreign direct investment, I've noticed that right after the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, the Madhya Pradesh government is holding the global investors meet also in Indore to try and, I think, continue that the chain and to make the diaspora more invested in this.
The spillover effect of PBD, where a large number of members of diaspora come here, then they go to MP. There is an event being organized today, for example, in Maharashtra. Then there will be one in UP. So the states are now trying to energize their own diaspora so that they get involved into the state's development, whether it is technology, whether it is investment, whether it is collaborations in terms of finance. This is one sees a new kind of enthusiasm among the states in terms of attracting the diaspora.
And globally also, Ambassador, we have been doing some regional Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, right? Like from New York to Singapore in different corners of the world, because not everybody can obviously come in person to the main event that is held biannually in India, Pravasi Bharatiya. But we have some local ones which bring in the diaspora from that particular sub-region of the world.
In fact, now every embassy abroad, every Indian embassy has to celebrate the PBD with the local communities. That has been introduced, because since 2015 we have this biennial event now. So in between and along with the PBD that is held here, all the embassies all over the world, they have smaller PBDs organized at under the leadership of the ambassador there. So that is now it's a practice, a very well established practice. One session I forgot to mention is about craft, cuisine and creativity. So obviously there are new ways of thinking of how to engage the diaspora, and whether it is a question of India is full of crafts. Now we are not fully exploited the markets overseas. Indian community diaspora can become a very effective instrument in really creating these markets. Same cuisine, India is still at 4th or 5th after Chinese, Mexican and other cuisine
in terms of the monetary value.
Globally. Now the effort to sort of further boost our cuisine abroad is a very I think laudable kind of a initiative. And similarly creativity, Indians write books, Indians are great painters, our Bollywood industry is full of creativity. I think that creativity part also really interests me very much, because this is how you engage and find out new ways to engage the diaspora.
Absolutely. So India is striving to find new ways to engage the diaspora, says Ambassador Dnyaneshwar Mulay. Viewers, I'd like also to focus a little bit of your attention on the journey of our Pravasis themselves and how far they have come, and this is something worth celebrating, respecting and also recognizing. Here is an interesting video excerpt of 2017 Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, where one of the important award winners, Nisha Desai Biswal, at that time she was Assistant Secretary of State in the Barack Obama administration of the United States, and presently she is President of the US India Chambers, the Business Council. So she's talking about how far the diaspora collectively as a people have come. Let's hear this very touching rendition.
The Indian diaspora have kept the culture alive in their own families, but they also shared it with their neighbors, with their schools, and with their communities. And so today in America, Diwali is celebrated in every state of our union. In the schools and on college campuses and even in the White House. And today, when you want to send your Diwali greeting card, you can put a Diwali stamp on it. But not too long ago, it was very different. Emigres were accused by their families and their communities in India of betraying and abandoning their country of origin. And many felt pressured in their new homes to blend in, to fit in, and to hide their Indianness. But little by little, they stopped hiding and started sharing, creating understanding and building bridges between our societies. Today, we see the results of those early struggles as the Indian diaspora are leaders in public life, in industry, and in academia. In the United States, Indian Americans are omnipresent in the cultural life of America, and as a result, have become a part of that rich American tapestry.
So viewers, you just saw Nisha Desai Biswal, one of the high flyers among our diaspora, talking about how we stopped hiding our Indianness. And Ambassador, go back just 3-4 decades ago, we didn't have this strong connection between Mother India and the diaspora. Our system here believed that they had abandoned us and had left for greener pastures. And just the support and the networking which we now do in Pravasi Bharatiya, none of those was there.
Existed.
And they were all on their own.
Absolutely.
And they felt also abandoned and betrayed by Mother India.
Right.
Now finally, we have been able to plug the gaps, and this is a huge development, isn't it, as a psychosocial level?
No doubt.
For 32 million people around the world to feel that they belong and that they have got a second home in India. That's, I think, very valuable. That's a big change.
Initially we were a bit introvert. We were also somewhat under shock with the effects of partition. Now with the enthusiasm of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it had
reached
to go
a different
to a
level.
new level.
One of the things, Ambassador, that's somewhat new is the political activism of our diaspora. Many of them are lobbying for India and for Indian interests. You were Consul General in New York, and you know this better.
Absolutely.
To what extent our diplomacy is enabling that element? And we have a congressional caucus in the US, for example, with the diaspora support.
Let me put it this way. We have a very clean slate with the diaspora. We really want to promote them and also in the process get India promoted. This is a collaborative partnership, and the rising confidence is not all of a sudden. A lot of effort has gone into it, and as Nisha Biswal said, earlier generations have suffered a lot to build. And 3 things: Indians are highly educated now, the income levels are generally above average in those respective countries, and number 3, most of them have actually protected, preserved, and promoting the family values.
Of course.
This is, and they were very honest. By and large, the crime rate among Indians is among the lowest in most countries, and this makes them very potent force for working together with India, and also working in that country to promote India's interests. Let's take the example of Mauritius, where a large number of members of parliament are of Indian origin.
Exactly.
So we have a natural edge in that country. And similarly, now in America you have presence in Senate, presence in the Congress.
The so-called Samosa caucus and all this.
Absolutely.
Ambassador, the other point I would like the audiences to know is there was a time when scholars used to say and observers generally that the diaspora is divided along ethnic and regional and linguistic lines. You know, like the Gujaratis had their own grouping and the Malayalis were different, the Punjabis. Now, it seems like they are all coming together. When you are abroad, overseas, you are first and foremost Indian, right? Only after that the other identities come. And Prime Minister Modi has also been, you know, important figurehead for that nationalistic revival in the diaspora, and that I think is one reason why they become a force to reckon with, isn't it?
No, absolutely. You know, one thing we cannot forget is India is full of diversity. This is of culture, costume, cuisine, crafts, and it really is a democratic you know, force in that sense. And now with India you know, coming of age and, you know, playing an important role, has, and Prime Minister Modi's very proactive interaction, it has certainly created a new environment, positive environment, and increasingly the regional, I won't say the identities are melting, but there is this overarching identity of you know, a being of Indian origin. That is, I think, the people haven't forgotten their roots, for example, but they are also now, you know, asking themselves to recognized as Indians and not as Tamils or Marathi or Bengali. It's a big difference than what it used to be maybe a decade back or even 2 decades back.
So, viewers, there is a metamorphosis. Pravasi Bharati Divas has been able to galvanize this. It's the central biennial event through which our diaspora is feeling ever more connected to India and also ever more empowered. And I want to thank Ambassador Dnyaneshwar Mulay for sharing valuable insights and
thank you for
educating our audience
and sharing my, you know, views.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, viewers, do think about the Indian diaspora in all its you know, dimensions. It is a force to reckon with, as you heard from Ambassador Mulay, and it's becoming bigger and bigger in terms of its scale and stature around the world. And Ambassador Mulay said that there is a concomitant rise of India as a, you know, leading power in the world and of our diaspora, and the two, there is a symbiotic relationship, and without one probably the other cannot rise. It has become so important. So, do reflect on this central factor of Indian diplomacy, which is our diaspora, and do follow the Pravasi Bharati Divas in Indore. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon. Until then, take care.